So dear brothers and sisters, it's always good in this season of Lent just to check how we're doing as regards our resolutions, as regards what we've chosen to do, what we've elected to do, and see how it's going, see what benefit it's bringing us. Just to check if we're doing all these things for the right reasons as well. Because for the popes of the last century, more or less, have been speaking about this, what they call the new evangelization. New evangelization. So what's new evangelization? Well, Paul VI spoke about new evangelization as, you see, we're evangelizing in Europe, for example. We're evangelizing those who've already received the gospel to a degree, those who've already been baptized. So they already have some sort of an exposure to the faith, but they're not living it, or they've rejected it, or maybe the version of the faith that they received was a very pallid, grey, kind of porridge version. He didn't say that, that's mine. But a real kind of a plain version of the faith, so much so that they've rejected it. So what they've rejected wasn't really the faith anyway, but they think they've rejected the faith. You know, so if we get a really weak version of the faith and we reject it, we're probably actually right to reject it. Okay, so if what we've understood by being Catholic, and this is even some of our young people here, they said that when we were in secondary school, what did it mean to be Catholic? Well, even as fifth years, when St. Patrick's Day would come around, we'd colour in shamrocks. Fifth year. It's like they're 16, 17 years of age, and they're colouring in shamrocks. While 5 minutes later they go to maths class and they're doing integration and differentiation and stats and like proper maths. They go to history and they're looking at American history, English history, and like European history, and proper dates and battles and wars and how they're looking at politics. They're looking at all of these serious issues in all of these other materials, in all these other subjects. But in religion, we're looking at colouring in. You know, so then the version of the faith that we've often received is a really kind of a weak version. Also for us adults then, what we might have understood, and I've said this a million times, so excuse the repetition, but for us as maybe slightly further along in age, our understanding of the faith might have been, just go to Mass and that's it, you're good to go. So our standard of what we understand to be Catholicism, our standard is very low. So when I'm working with people, you should be pastorally sensitive, understanding that, like this, as I said, this is at a time of this new evangelization. So the gospel that they have received may not have been the gospel at all. Bottom line, how do we measure? How do we measure if a person, again, this isn't about judging people, but we do have to have standards. So how do we measure if a person's faith is what it's supposed to be? How do we measure these things? See, in all other fields, there are ways of measuring success. So in sport, obviously having an All-Ireland medal, that means you're the best of the best. Having a provincial medal means you're pretty good. Having a county medal, you're doing well. Even if you're not doing so well, at least you can beat Bally. Whatever you do, just beat Bally. You know what I mean? Because you need to have some sort of standard of achieving something, some sort of way of recognizing, or some way of even justifying all of the training and all of the effort. There has to be something, some standard. So the difficulty is in our ever more pluralist world and ever more pluralist Ireland. As soon as you talk about a standard, it sounds like it's being exclusive or it's pushing people out. But that's not it at all. We're not pushing anybody out. We're just, what does it mean to be Catholic? What does it mean to be Catholic? Now, this answer, this could be a whole conference, which we haven't time for, but I just want to hone in on one particular detail. What it means to be Catholic is, what does our gospel ask us today? You know, what is the greatest commandment? The first commandment is this: listen, Israel. It's very interesting that the Lord prefaces this answer with "listen, Israel." This is a very famous expression amongst the Jews. It was the Shema Israel. Listen, Israel. So before they list whatever the standards are, whatever the commandments are, it's listen. would you just listen? Listen. Listen to the Lord. Listen to him. So it's not just do things and pray things and wear certain things for Jews, which was very important, and there's nothing wrong with it, but there's more to it than just, the choreography and the clothes. It's a thing of the heart. Our faith is an issue of the heart, and this is also where we as Irish struggle. We would much prefer it was a thing of just go to Mass, then we're good to go. Box ticked, we're great. But it's not. That's not enough. We're supposed to do this. Please continue to observe the keeping holy of the Sabbath. Yes, please continue to go to Mass on Sunday. But you can't just say because of that done, we're good to go. There's more to it. The first commandment is this. The Lord our God is one Lord, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. That's it. Now, if that's the standard, if that's what we're called to, that's very, very different to, do you just go to Mass on a Sunday? The Lord is asking us, do you love me? The standard of our faith isn't the external observances, important and all as they are. The standard is, do you love me? The standard is not, do you believe I exist? That's a very, very, very low bar. Imagine a couple married after 20 years and the husband turns to her good self and he says, Mary, I believe you exist. Will she gush with joy and with all sorts of emotion and flattery and who knows? No, she'll probably smack him. Is that all you can say after 20 years? You believe I exist. I believe your wart exists as well. You're not saying much. So again, we kind of pat ourselves on the back and say, well, I believe in God. Do yeah. Well, good for you. So what? That's not the standard. It's necessary. It's a necessary foundation. Okay, believing he exists, great. But then after you believe he exists, what kind of God is he? What's your relationship with this God? And this, if we hold ourselves to this standard, if we keep in mind what the Lord here is asking us to do, then this very much changes where we're at in our faith journey. The question is not, do I believe God exists? Do I love him? Do I love him? Do I love the Lord? As teachers or as catechists in schools, I know it's difficult these days now because Ireland the culture has just changed so much. Probably similarly in England, America probably as well. Most of Western Europe, just the culture has changed so much in recent decades. It's hard to keep up. And so we've been maybe dropping the standard, trying to accommodate everyone and not be too kind of triumphalist or not be too confident or not seem exclusive. But what have we lost in the meantime? Are people aiming for a loving relationship with Jesus? Because if this isn't the goal, you're not going to arrive there by accident. And this is a huge problem at the moment because we're not aiming for that. We're not aiming for a loving, even in catechizing children, primary, secondary school, and again, this isn't to condemn teachers or anything, but just what kind of standards should we have at the end of their Catholic education? Do these children love the Lord? Do they love Jesus? It's a high standard, but at least we should know what it is. We should know what we're aiming for. One other little side point of this, which was actually supposed to be the homily, but we have a gymnast here in our community this year, and she can do back flips and front flips and twisty flips and all sorts of things. And it's very interesting, if you ever watch the Olympics and the gymnasts on the floor, they do some stuff that the human body shouldn't be able to do. Do you know when they do all their kind of elegant thing and they pop into the corner, right? And then they're focusing on that other corner, right? And they do the little bounce, and then off they go, run, sprint, bounce, flip, and then they actually get serious height right? Like a serious, like they must be, sure, easily 3 meters in the air, easily. Okay. Now, any ordinary person with what are known as bones, right? When they land, they will break all of them. But these gymnasts who are basically made of rubber are able to do this kind of thing. And then when they land, but it's very interesting, you see, how do you land? How do you fall? How do you fall? They have to learn how to take a fall, because you don't do all of that springy, jumpy, and then just land on your feet. You know, you'll shatter your ankles. So often when you do these spinny things, I should have proper terminology, gymnastic things, I don't know, moves, whatever, what are they called? Repertoires, what? Tumbles. Tumbles, okay. When you do all these tumbles, that doesn't sound very professional. When you do all these tumbles, you have to know how to land. And one of the ways that you land, especially if you're after gaining a lot of height, is that you actually tumble. Yeah, you land not on your feet, but you land on your shoulder and roll. It's actually a similar teaching in the military. You shouldn't have to use this very often, but if you have to fall, don't land on your feet, but roll. It takes the impact off the fall. You know what I mean? So when we had a Korean chap in our community who had to not enlist. He was they're all drafted. They all do their military service. So as part of the military service, they had to learn to jump from the top story of the second story of a building, so out a window. So I don't know how high it was, 4 or 5 meters. Anyway, it's a good height, proper height. And they had to run out the window, jump, and then land on the ground. But no one lands on their feet. So he showed us how to do it. We had our seminary was built on a bit of a hill, so there was a high wall and then a low garden. So he just ran off the high part. We were all like, and then we all ran over to see him, and he just goes, and then in the air, just comes down his shoulder, rolls, and then lands on his feet. Learning how to fall. Learning how to fall. Now, we don't aim to fall. That's gymnasts do aim to fall. They're doing all of this because that's part of the thing. So just respect the limitations of my analogy here. We're not aiming to fall. In our faith, we're never aiming to fall. But when we do, how do we fall? Say you have some goal you set yourself for this Lent and you've fallen short of the mark. How do we fall? In Hebrews 4 we hear, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Psalm 91, this is from a Protestant Bible, so check the verse there. It's not Psalm 91 in the version I have here. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. When we fall, we don't want to, or at least we should be trying not to. But if we fall, we should know what to do. We should know where to go with this failure of ours. Cade Thompson, an American worship songwriter, wrote a song called "The Arms of Jesus." I think this is a great image to have. When we fall into the arms of the Lord. If we mess up, if our standard, if what we're called to is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our strength, and we fall short of that, the temptation might be embarrassment and keep away from the Lord. We have to learn to fall. When we fall into his arms. And the chorus of the song, Arms of Jesus, goes, fall into the arms of Jesus, into the arms of grace. Hang on to his promise when it's more than you can take. Fall into the arms of mercy, into the arms of strength. He holds your broken heart when your world is falling apart. Lord, you set a high standard. You ask us to love you with all our heart, soul, and strength. Lord, when we fall short of the mark, may we fall into your arms. Amen.